Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the WP-Tonic podcast. We have an excellent guest here with us, actually one that I recommended and that I know a little bit about. Welcome, Sunir, to the WP-Tonic podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, Adrian. You're so great. I'm a big fan of you, too, so thanks for having me here.
I didn't know I had fans, so thank you.
Well, I will be the president of your fan club because I need another trade association.
Thank you. And of course, I am joined by the actual host of this show, Jonathan Denwood is with me today. How are you, Jonathan?
I'm doing great, Adrian. You're doing a great job. I just thought give Adrian an insight about doing the intro, listeners and viewers. And I won't be here next week. Adrian's going to be doing the interview on his own. So we thought we'd do a dry run.
Awesome. And today's episode is brought to you by our awesome sponsor. You should know them at this point by heart. They are one of the premier new WordPress as a service companies out there. They're doing some great stuff with hosting, and they are Kinsta. Kinsta is one of the newer premier hosting solutions for managed WordPress. They are beating out all of their competition. They offer 5-star support, and they're offering some great plans for you. You can get in at about $30 a month. And it's honestly the level of technology that they're currently offer is bar none best dollar for value for the higher tier hosting or managed WordPress hosting companies that are currently out there. So if you haven't checked out Kinsta, or you're looking for a brand new hosting company, you're looking to remove yourself from the cPanel, you don't want to have to deal with, that old ancient UI, you don't want to deal with Apache rules, you don't have to deal with the file manager, you don't have to deal with MySQL and all that stuff, and you just want someone to take care of it for you in a company that provides you the tools you need, or the support level that you need that just takes care of it for you, then go check out Kinsta. That's kinsta.com. Get on one of their plans, talk to their sales agents, and they'll be able to help you with that. And you can let them know that you heard about it here at WP-Tonic. All right. So welcome, Sunir, to the show. Why don't you start off with just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are? We always love hearing the origin story of our guests. So it's like the Dark Knight Rises. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
I ate some radioactive pizza and I became a turtle. So I got here in a very circuitous route. Some people would say, but it all makes sense to me. I live in partnership land, and I love software, and I love stitching it together from the partnership side of things.
Something that WordPress is really good at. Stitching stuff together.
Yes, I will. I know lots of people at WordPress, and people work with WordPress. It's a very interesting ecosystem with lots of opinions about lots of things, which is great. So that's my diplomatic way of saying it's an interesting space for partner people. But for those of you who know a company called FreshBooks, probably a lot of you use it for your invoicing. I started the marketing team there in 2007, but my background is computer science. I'm a software developer. I only have been in marketing through a series of unfortunate life decisions, and
as anybody ever is, really.
Yeah, it's true. The parties were better, and I would say that if I just hung on long enough for the microbrew revolution, I would have been a developer. But it's just the parties were just better at marketing at the time, and I ended up a marketer. But like my shtick has always been partnerships, so I took over the platform and all the partnerships at FreshBooks. I ran that for 5 years. And while I was there, I created something called the Cloud Software Association, which is, and now Adrian, you're part of it actually. So it's all the SaaS partnership people. And that's really the purpose of that is partner people. We all need to know each other and know what's going on with each other. There's a lot of skills to learn as a partnership person that you never learn in school. And you often come from like dev or sales or marketing. You gotta learn everyone else's skills. And we like drinking. So as a trade association, that was pretty much a no-brainer. We literally incorporated because our bar bill one year got to $32,000. And I was like, okay, that's enough. We're the Shriners of tech. It's awesome. No hats though.
And tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so after all of that, living in partner land, there's a problem that we kept banging our heads in, like the whole industry. And, I was talking about it, and people, when you talk about something, complain about something enough, people just go, can you just fix it already? And so I fixed it. And so the problem that I think everyone has faced, especially in your audience, is if you are an agency and you are building a project for a client, how do you procure those subscriptions that are part of the project for the client? And you end up in this very awkward situation where you get the client to buy things that they don't really understand what it is that you're buying. It's very similar So if your plumber asks you to buy flux to fix your sink, like, what is flux? Fix my sink. What is all this Envato? What is Envato? Like, what is that?
Right. It's expected that, you come, if you're paying for the service, you come with the stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like WordPress is a very complicated universe, and getting your clients to buy their own plugins and stuff is very complicated. So hosting, there's a million things you have to buy. Ads, maybe, buying those things. You should take care of that. It's part of your white glove service to clients, but it's hard because of credit card subscriptions. But I found a solution. So AppBind, which is my company, AppBind, what we do is that we allow you to procure those subscriptions. We make a new credit card for each subscription. You plug it in with those AppBind cards. The charges flow into your AppBind account to be managed. You can then expense it to your clients automatically. If you link the client's credit card into your system, you invite them in. All the accounting is tracked by client individually. If you want to, you can add, and you should, by the way, add your management fees for managing their IT stack. I've never had seen a client ever complain about you taking over IT from them, because otherwise you start involving their IT team if they have one. If they don't have one, they don't have one, and that's an objection already. It's part of your service. You're the person they hired. So you can provide great white glove, high value service to your clients by taking on the part of the stack that they hired you to do it. It was just not very easy to do before. And if anyone here has ever had to buy stuff on your own credit card for clients, you just know what a bookkeeping nightmare that is.
Oh my God, yeah.
But AppBind automates all of that. It just flows it right through. You don't take any financial risk if the client's card is in the system. We just pass it on. We give you all the individual accounting. We even allow you to put backup cards, because this happens to me every Christmas. I don't know why it's Christmas, but the cards get stolen, and then I have to go in up to my client's account, at 3 a.m. and update all the credit card with my personal card, and then I have to go get them to go update it. That's all gone with AppBind. It's all managed inside AppBind. All these little tiny problems should not be problems. You should be focused on your client and not this problem. And we solved that. It's really, really, I'm really proud that we found the solution. It was very difficult to build because it's to change the credit card system, the network. But Visa's been a great partner, and we have a really unique solution.
That's awesome. It's like, half the time we tell people to go buy, well, at least when I used to work at an agency, half the time we told people to go buy stuff. They end up buying the wrong thing half the time. And then you have to go through the refund process and then get them well, I'm not buying the new thing. Get refunded. It's a whole problem. So I commend you for coming up with a solution and building a solution for us agency people.
I'm saving the world one subscription at a time.
It's one subscription.
I love my origin story. It started with a radioactive pizza, and now here we are, the hero.
I love it. Is that like on the? Is that in the? Is that in the above the fold on the website?
It should be now. Yeah, I think my Twitter profile still says I'm a bad dancer, but maybe I should say
saving the world one subscription at a time.
That's what it should.
I love it.
Yeah.
But you do have a huge background in partnerships. So Jonathan, why don't you talk to Sunir a little bit about partnerships?
Well, Sunir, well, actually, what I was going to ask you was that as you described your product, it sounds fabulous, and I really mean that. And there's obviously a real need for it, but it's not a totally simple pitch, is it? How has there been obstacles that you've had to overcome in the actual marketing message to people? Because people's attention is, in 2019, is pretty slim, isn't it? They're bombarded by all these different messages, and yours is not the most simplest message, but it's a great service, isn't it?
Well, it's a good question. So even, this is a relatively new product. We've been marketing it. In fact, this is how we met Adrian. We met him at Collision. So that's when we started marketing the product in that, around April. So of this year, and we've been betaing it for a few months before that. But when you market things, you start improving your pitches. And what I've learned is AppBind, the value for agencies, it's all about our customer is the agency, right? And your customer is the customer, right? The SaaS vendors think they're the most important thing, right? But the software companies are not the most important thing. They are the customer is the most important thing. And what I ended up drawing upon was my own experience as a consultant. What is a consultant for? Clients only hire agencies, honestly, when they have anxiety, and the consultant lowers the anxiety. That's what every consultant does. If you raise their anxiety, you're fired. That's 100% always the case. That's basically all you do. Sometimes you deliver stuff and they never even use it, but they feel a lot better working with you, and that's really all that matters.
That's actually, it's actually, you're bringing up a good point. I can't imagine like the number of times we used to do training, and people would come to the training and just make them feel good, even if they never implemented anything from the training. They just felt better.
Yeah, that's really honestly what people want. And so the pitch of AppBind, it's about a mechanic. It's like, this is what it comes down to: anxiety. And your job, you're basically, I was like the therapist for my clients. I was like, maybe I was doing more management consultants with CEOs and stuff, and executives, but even with staff, it was all the same problem. You would never go outside your organization to an agency, right? If you have an organization, because it annoys staff, right? You're saying you can't do it. It's like, oh, there's lots of issues with going to consultants, and there's, you don't have control, but they only do it because the pain is so high, right? That they're willing to trust someone else. And your job is to make that pain, justify it by saying, I'm your good doctor, I'll take care of you. And so the pitch for AppBind, it starts with the mechanic of like the credit cards and the buying subscriptions. But the real pain fundamentally is that doesn't matter, it just happens to be internet software, but as any contractor anywhere, like my general contractor who did my basement, this is my renovated basement, I just hired him to do all this stuff, and he hired the furnace installers. The furnace installers negotiate with the furnace company, and they got the warranty signed for the house. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. They took care of it. I just paid the general contractor. I have a beautiful basement now. No pain for me. And your job as an agency, when you're selling to the client, is I will take care of this for you. But the problem with internet software and ads and all these things is you're making your client interface with the supplier directly, and it's confusing. And it's awkward, and they make mistakes, and it takes time, and they're suddenly getting into the weeds, and they hired you to handle it. And it's just a very awkward situation. I call it the love triangle, right? And these software companies are trying to fight for control of the customer, and you want control of the customer too, and you're both fighting for the love of the customer. And the customer hates it. They really don't. Even if they want to control the subscription, it's because they're afraid of you, right? Like they're afraid that if you had control of their stack, right, and they want to fire you, which is basically the reason why they want it directly. In case they don't like you, that they won't have control of the stack. So they just can't get their subscriptions back from you. But AppBind even handles this. We're putting it out into production soon. We can transfer all the subscriptions to the client in one click once you're done with them, because it's just we just reassign the credit card numbers to them. That's the mechanic. So everything about AppBind is a lowering anxiety to the client.
So how are you explaining the benefits to the agency, for the agency and the client in a direct way? Or can you describe, have you had to change your approach based on the feedback that you've got?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I started off, you got to start somewhere. I started with the mechanic, because I'm just trying to resonate the actual product itself, like the credit card thing we're doing. But now what I'm focused on, because it's actually real, is I want to support you as an agency to be the expert that you are for your client, so you can take care of them in a white glove way. And your clients want you to take care of them. We want to get rid of the awkward triangle, love triangle. We want you to provide them great white glove service from beginning to end. You recommended this software because you're the expert, right? You should manage the negotiation with the vendor, the procurement, the setup, the integration, the management, the ongoing negotiation with the vendor. You should keep up with product updates, security updates in the vendor. You should appraise the client what's going on. That's what they hired you for. They don't know any of this stuff. That's why they hired you, right? But if you don't have ability to manage the software and the relationships around that software to the client, then it's going to be harder, right? And you want to do it in a way that doesn't create risk for your clients, right? You don't want to generate problems where you're doing this. You want to do it in a way that it's still their intellectual property. It's still their subscriptions, but you're managing it for them, right? And you should be able to make money doing it. So this is what AppBind is all about, is making digital agencies stronger, better partners for their customers, better partners for the software company, taking the risk down for everybody involved. That's really the core of the benefit, right? And the mechanic, the thing that's blocking you is that you just have no ability to buy and manage software licenses as subscriptions. And AppBind is basically allowing you to do that, because we've figured out the mechanic.
I'd love to know.
Power is
yeah. Before I throw it over to Adrian, the reason why I laboured on this is because obviously what you're saying, it's a win-win. It's a win for the agency and it's a win for the client. The client wants control over those licenses, but on the same breath, they want the agency to do everything. So without your product, there's a contradiction. So you're solving a contradiction, two feelings, basically, wanting somebody to take over everything, but still wanting control. But the reason why I laboured it is that, anybody that's got a service or a product, all the people that listen to this podcast, what you think is really clear probably isn't clear to your target audience. So if you've got a course or whatever you're selling, you really got to labour about how you're getting that. And because you know so much about your company, your service, your product, what you think is obvious isn't obvious to your target audience.
Oh my God.
So I'm just going to throw it over to Adrian.
I'd love to know if there are like, I know that you've been building it for a long time. How long has it actually been like active with customers and agencies using it?
Actively, April. So we've been like, we got people out of like the test mode into they're actually putting in front of clients, and it's been growing. Every week we're onboarding another, happy agency. Right?
Do we have like a happiness metric yet? Like, so for example, an agency before and after, do we have like number of retained clients or customer happiness, or do we have any metrics on that yet?
Well, what we measure right now is, are they adding more than the test subscription? And so they always, every agency starts with one subscription because they don't like, this is such a new concept.
Right.
It's like, what is this?
It's like it's just like a digital credit card only.
Oh yeah. It's a virtual, it is a virtual credit card. Yeah. It's a true credit card, but it's not, it is a little bit different. We had to change it. We had to get Visa's platform partner, who they invested in, to make the changes to the entire the credit card network.
So how many subscriptions are businesses adding these days?
Well, we have roughly 100 different products going through the system in any given month. So
that's solid.
Yeah, so that's the other measure we also have, is how many different types of services, because we want to see like the breadth of the scope. And it's actually, as long as it takes a credit card, it works. And there's actually quite a number of things. There's so many products out there. It's like, I don't even know half of them. I thought I knew most of the software companies, but there's all these little things like you guys.
Right.
I never would have known about you, but you're like another product that people would have bought. In WordPress land, it's like 50,000 different plugins. Right.
And on that note, I'm so interested to learn more, but we do have to go for a break. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a small break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to learn so much more about all of the benefits that managing subscriptions for your clients can do. All right, we'll be back with you shortly. And we're back. We're talking to Sunir Shah from the Cloud Software Association and from AppBind, a new service that exists to remove the anxiety in between customers and their billing with their agencies. So we were just talking about how Sunir's been operating actively, or rather AppBind has been operating actively since April. They have over 100 products currently running through their software. And at this point, I'm going to throw it over to Jonathan, and he's going to have an interesting question for you.
So, you had this germ of idea, and when I go on other people's podcasts and I'm interviewed, I'm asked about, should I build the course or build the product? And I say, no, you need to confirm that there's actually a demand for this. So when you were you had this germ of idea, but how did you confirm that there was a real need for this before you started building out and investing all the time and money in building this fantastic platform?
That's a great question. And first, you can always do more. So everyone I know who starts, answering generically for your audience, you're trying to reflect on it. Everyone who starts feels like they could have done more, but if you've done enough that you feel like people are reflecting back your core idea back to you and can reflect back the product idea back to you, right? Then you know that it's simple enough they get it, and there's enough people who get it. So I have an advantage, right? So I had two advantages. One, I was at FreshBooks, and I started the marketing team, and I ran partnerships there. And while I was on, partnerships mean any kind of partnerships. I did a lot of work with customers, tens of thousands of creative web creative web agencies and freelancers I've talked to while I was at FreshBooks, one way or the other. In person, probably 4 or 5,000. And so over that, in that period of time, this issue came up over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, because you can't do time and materials billing if the material is a subscription. That was the problem. And so and then when I was running partnerships there, we tried for 2 or 3 years, I think, to build like a reseller portal around FreshBooks, and it was just the diversion of capital and engineering from core product was always an insane concept, because you need to stay competitive, right? Why would you take these resources away from the core product, right? And it never made sense too, even though we were a billing system for our resellers, because FreshBooks is a special place because it is an invoicing tool for clients. So we could have been the billing for ourselves. Even then, it didn't make any sense because we were trying to control part of the business for the agencies. And so I got to talk to a lot of agencies that way. And the second part is all these software companies, SaaS companies, through the trade association. I know all the partnership people, and this comes like I run this conference every year called SaaS Connect. It's been 10 years now. It'll be coming up next year. It'll be 10 years. So this year, sorry, in 2019 was 10 years actually. Oh my gosh, how old am I? Oh my God.
I can't help you there. You look very young. So there.
I had hair when we started. Anyway, so we talked about it like every year, and every year I would do the state of the industry, and every year my keynote would be the reseller channel was not working. My background actually as a software developer is informative too, because I started off in the Microsoft channel in telecom. It was all resell and distribution, and it just blew my mind like how difficult it was to do distribution with cloud software. And if you look at the numbers, like the economic numbers, SaaS may be growing and everyone's like very excited about all these IPOs that are upside down right now.
Poor WeWork.
Oh, yeah.
WeWork's not doing too good.
No, that's too bad. So I'm friends with everybody, and so I smile. But I as someone interested in the industry, I don't enjoy these kind of upside down numbers. But like if you look at the global GDP of B2B SaaS last year was like 82 billion, roughly, according to Gartner, I think, or IDC. But Microsoft's revenue was over $120 billion alone. Like one company, way bigger than all the entire industry globally. And the reason why is Microsoft, they are very adamant that like over 90%, and they would prefer higher, like over 95% of the revenue goes from partners. They don't want to sell directly to customers. They want to build up their ecosystem. And for every dollar that Microsoft makes, they want to make sure that their ecosystem makes $8. So Microsoft is actually $1 trillion global ecosystem. They take a ninth of that, right? And so that is a difference between channel. And when you talk about in software, when we talk about channel, we actually mean Microsoft. Like that's what almost everyone means. Is the Microsoft ecosystem, because everything is built around what they did in the 80s with licensed software. So that kind of stuff gave me the idea that the economics is wrong, and then talking to all the software companies, and they're all banging their head against it. And I can see the trends as well from this, even just speaker submissions for SaaS Connect, as it's changed from integrations to now to all channel. Everyone's like banging their head against referral now, and you can't get resell going, and then talking to the agencies directly. And also, like my experience at FreshBooks, talking to so many agencies, and just this pain that they have of like what is their value? Like a lot of the SaaS companies too. I mean, you listen to a lot of the major like growth blogs, news conferences, and SaaS is like how much customer value can you take as a SaaS company? And that means when you're doing everything, success and implementation and services and everything. That used to be your agency ecosystem used to do that, right? And what SaaS companies are doing in order to get more and more wallet share and control more and more of the customer is we're squishing out the channel. And you can see the growth ceilings for SaaS companies are usually in the tens, or maybe like 5 or 6 figure subscriptions, right? Companies.
Well, I don't know how far you agree with this, because basically what you're saying is because based on your past experience, because of the uniqueness of you working with FreshBook and then your association, you probably did a bit, but you didn't feel you knew the pain that you were going to relieve with your product, so you didn't have to do quite so much basic research. The other thing I think you're saying, and I agree with you, is to some extent you see agencies actually building software for specific verticals, specific industries, and so they use software as an added value mechanism to be hired. And then you see on the other side, you see software companies encroaching on agencies on the service part and offering added value by encroaching on the normal hand-holding element that agencies do. Would you agree with that?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, first, I would say I did talk, I did have a beta list of 100 people saying yes. That was, I needed to get to like 100, right? Before, and beta lists don't convert 100%, but 100% people can reflect back my idea back to me. I think everyone, that's basic table stakes. You need, depending on your markets, like your ACV, your target, you need like so many number of people to say, this makes sense to me. I can reflect it back to you as a pane. That's table stakes. You just need to do that. That's just phone calls and emails. Yeah. But like the truth, but the pane that came back was this love triangle. I wasn't the one who came up with the word love triangle. It just came in a conversation with an agency, and they just felt like it was like a love triangle. It was like, oh, that's interesting. And I started using that language, and with everybody, as everyone suddenly instantly got it, because they could see like everyone's. And you can't have fights in when you're working with partners, right? Over the customer, because you're supposed to partner and to go to customer together, and so everyone could feel the problem. And I was starting to get that reflected back to me, but no one had an answer. No one could solve the problem. That was also an interesting thing. Actually, they said, Sarah, you're the president of the Charity Association. You should solve the problem. What's your answer? It's like,
so we got about 5 minutes before we're gonna end, and then hopefully you'll be able to stay on for some bonus content. We did about 10 minutes after the end of the show. But before we do, I'm just curious, what do you think that software as a service companies can be doing in order to enable the relationship that you want to have? Because you're saying that, yes, we want control of the customer, because, because software as a service aren't always necessarily inclined for the success of the agency. They want the customer to be successful. So they're fighting that relationship and trying to provide the customer with the tools, not necessarily the agency with the tools. Something that I did, just on a side note, is we started our partner program. So we're actually very interested in supporting agencies and people that want to do all the implementation. We're not necessarily as interested in making sure the client, as long as you're interested in making the client successful. So that's not so super maybe like my business, but there are businesses out there that is super interested. So what do you recommend for businesses that maybe are listening, or at least if you're a customer, look for businesses that are doing this that will enable that relationship a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. First, by the way, I have a very excellent, out of all these conversations, I've compiled like a very extensive and simple now how-to guide for any software company attempting to go to channel. So email me, Sunir@appbind.com, and I will send you that. It is a very detailed, like step-by-step and highly compressed, like just all the things you need to do to get going. You can put together a channel program in a week if you wanted to. People overthink it. The most important thing software companies have to do is stop thinking they're the most important part of that relationship. The most important part of that relationship is the customer. The customer hired their agency to be their expert, right? Your job as a software company is to enable that expert to serve that customer. They're your partner, not your channel, not your extended sales team.
Right.
Number two, anything you do to increase the risk to the agency, you're dead. They're going to get rid of you, because if you increase the risk to them, they increase the risk to the customer, anxiety goes up, goodbye agency. You're obviously not the most important part of that equation. And number three is anything you can do to lower the risk is good. So it's all about anxiety. Anything you can lower the risk. So basic stuff, talk to your agencies. So many people just don't. No newsletter, no email, no Slack community, nothing. Just talk to them. Be available for them. Even if it's just like by email queue, ticketing, be available. Put a landing page up, collateral, newsletters, make sure they're informed of product changes, a day or two before they're coming out. Make sure that's a table stakes thing. It's just basic respect, right? Because they don't want to be surprised. That's risk. if you can, send them customers, right? So the agencies that do well for you, you're going to have customers that have implementation needs. Be willing to give up your growth of your success team to build your partners, because the partners will take you to more customers, right? And Infusionsoft, now Keep, rebranded. Very interesting use case. I had no idea they were going to do this when I invited them to keynote at the conference, but they completely changed. They love their employees and they love customers, but they got rid of the customer success team and converted all to partner success. And then now all the 90% of their onboarding goes through partners instead of their own internal team. And they had to do that in order to grow the ecosystem. That is, what Microsoft did, why they grew. That's a bit far for a lot of companies, but you got to think about, can I actually give this up, create room for these agencies to take over? HubSpot is an amazing example of a company who has built an entire marketplace around this. WordPress is another great community because it started as an open source community, right, of building up all these agencies and giving up a lot of value to the agencies in order to create a much more vibrant ecosystem. HubSpot's a good example, though, because it's a central company. It's not open source. We didn't measure the result. They claim, they're a public company, 40% of the revenue comes from agencies, over $100 million annual recurring revenue from agencies. So it's like a high impact. I assume WordPress is like even more so, but it's harder to measure because it's not centralized. But it's that kind of thing. You got to think about what you can give over, help them lower the risk, talk to them, communication, secret to all relationships. What a surprise.
Thank you. So there are some tips for you. If you're listening to this and you have a company and you want to go channel, you want to create a vibrant community, those are some of the steps you have to do. You can email Sunir. And speaking of which, while we're going to end the podcast now, and then hopefully we'll stay on for some bonus content. But why don't you tell us how people and where people can go to find more about you and what you are up to?
Fantastic. So AppBind, AppBind.com is the name of the company. And my email address is Sunir, S-U-N, as in November, I-R, at appbind.com. Just please email me. I'm happy to answer questions. It's my favorite thing to do. And if you want to join the trade association, because you're interested in partners and channel, either as an agency or a software company or distributor marketplace, we're trying to make it all work. It's cloudsoftwareassociation.com. It's free to join, although, the general rule is you should buy drinks occasionally. That's partner people.
Thank you. Jonathan, how can people, I'm sure they know where to go, but I'm going to ask anyway since I'm hosting. Where should people go to find out more about you and what you're up to?
If you want to be a partner with us, you're a designer, a consultant, WordPress consultant or agency, and you've got a client and you're looking for a development partner in the learning space with learning management system, WP-Tonic can help you. And the easiest way is just to go to the WP-Tonic.com website. We've got a load of resources, great interviews and blog posts all around how you can build a successful course and be an e-learning entrepreneur.
And my name is Adrian. I'm the CEO and founder of Groundhog. We build marketing and sales tools for businesses that use WordPress, email marketing, CRM, sales pipeline, all of that good stuff. If you want to ditch your software as a service company and stop paying those hefty $299 monthly fees, then you can use our tools, which are more or less comparable for absolutely free. You can go to groundhog.io in order to find out more about that, and our free plugin also hosted on the WordPress repository, wordpress.org/plugins/groundhog.io. Thanking for joining us, and we will see everybody next week. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. I was about to register a domain as my Adrian fan club website.
And welcome back to bonus content. We are still here with Sunir, and we're going to learn a little bit more and talk about some deeper topics. Jonathan, why don't you start us off?
Well, actually, I didn't know where to take this because you've been a fabulous guest. Obviously, fantastically knowledgeable. So I've got two questions, and you can choose which one you answer, because I was thinking of combining them, but that would be extremely long-winded. Number one, WordPress has got to almost 34%. It's people are touting in the WordPress community that WordPress will become the operating system of the web. Do you think its growth can keep going? And do you think it will become the operating system of the web? And the second question, there's a lot about SaaS products but there's also the talk of WordPress as a service model. There's a few people that have tried it, but they haven't been that successful. Got any thoughts why that's difficult in the WordPress ecosystem? And I also think WordPress, in the e-learning field, WordPress main competitors are SaaS platforms like Kajabi, Teachable. There's a half a dozen of them. So how do you think this conflict's going to go between WordPress and some of these SaaS models?
That's an interesting question. God, I got to throw in my rapid Harvard Business Review case study mindset here. I'll think about it. Using my expert punditry, everyone claims they want to be the operating system of the web. It's a very complicated, it's a great thing to say, but the web is now big. It's 3 billion people. So JavaScript is the operating system of the web, maybe you could say. But what are people trying to say when you're saying that? The web is just way too big to have an operating system anymore. But what you're trying to say is WordPress driving most sites, and the richness of the WordPress ecosystem, is it going to generate more of the future of digital experiences? And what are websites even going to be 10 years from now? Because it's not.
Will there be websites?
Well, that's going to be interesting because there'll be different delivery systems, right? So my view is, I know there's obviously can I mention is it the he who shall not be named, the other CMSs like Drupal and Joomla and all those, right? Those exist, yeah. Right? And they just exist in different segments, right? So WordPress is just obviously the default. I just don't understand how you could not have WordPress as the default. It's just so much more powerful for the casual user. But then you look at Wix.com, which has simplified things. And I think a reasonable analogy maybe for how this works. I've been on the internet a lot longer than this business software stuff. I came from, I was just thinking about my career 20 some years ago, before I entered this space. I was into, wikis and Usenet. I know the people at FSF that's why I was in the news. I'm not going to get into that. But I know them, the open source community. I spoke at, Wizards of Oz in Berlin back in the early parts of my career. And WordPress is part of that ecosystem. It's an open source, open internet product. But if you want to look at a business level, Craigslist is a good analogy, right? So a lot of stuff was on Craigslist first, and then all these SaaS companies took slices of Craigslist and built a capital centralized system around it, right? And built giant billion-dollar corporations out of Craigslist, right?
BNB, yeah, that's the example, because they got the customers, wasn't it, by poaching them off Craigslist, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a great infographic somewhere of all the things that are basically Craigslist split up, and the value of Craigslist is actually diminished as a result, because this is the big open source debate, right? Coase's Penguin and all that stuff, enclosure versus non-enclosed, whatever. It's debate, for-profit versus open source businesses. So that is an interesting question. But WordPress is a little bit different than Craigslist, because Craigslist is particularly anti-monetary value, but WordPress is a real business, right? So there's a lot of investment going on in WordPress land. So I think it will continue to grow. It's just interesting. It's just one of those interesting things. There had to be something like WordPress. That happened to be great, which is great. And then the community's been very positive, right? And the code base, because everyone complains about it because it's open source, because that's part of open source, is actually great. I have to say, it continues to function in a reliable way, right? And it improves all the time. You can't be said about everything like that, but is it going to be the operating system? I think it's just part of. It's just table stakes. WordPress is going to be everywhere. The question is, how will it continue to evolve, right? There's going to be other deployment vehicles. You're talking about voice activated apps, right? But there's going to be a CMS plugin for Alexa, I'm sure, out of WordPress, because it's still an amazing CMS, right? So,
well, just to finish up before I throw it over to Adrian, that's been the main, when people say, will will there be websites is basically the surprising, well, it shouldn't be that surprising, but how quickly voice search or voice usage to find services, products has grown, hasn't it? And how that has encroached in the dominance of having a written or image-based portal for companies, whatever organizations that you go to give you a message, isn't it? Over to Adrian.
Yeah, I just thought it's not really, I just wanted to share a thought, maybe not like the de facto operating system, because that's basically just like Linux for the most part. But
yeah. It's a weird question, but it's a bold statement.
I'm noted for my weird questions. Don't be surprised.
I do think that at least one of my thoughts is that WordPress will continue to be the driver of innovation as far as the web is concerned. A lot of the innovation that we see, stems out of like you said, people taking bits from Craigslist. Right, people take and they see cool stuff that's in WordPress and they take it out, and you got like Squarespace and Wix and Gutenberg and stuff like that, and Gutenberg's being implemented into like Drupal.
Well, look what you're doing, Adrian, with HubSpot. Fundamentally,
we're taking the other way around. We're going.
But fundamentally, you're trying to build something on an open source platform that you're really taking on a number of established SaaS companies, aren't you?
Yeah, so it works both ways. Software takes the innovations from WordPress, and then there's people like me and a lot of other people like me who take the innovations of software as a service and they make it for WordPress, kind of just like making it. Well, why would I shell out lots of money when I can just go open source and kind of have almost all the same benefits? Anyway, just a thought that maybe not the de facto operating system, but definitely like a major driver of innovation as far as the web is concerned. I just wanted to share that thought. And how much time do we usually take for the?
Go on, more. You go and have one more question.
One more question. So why don't you tell us a little bit about? I wanted to mention, because we talked a lot about AppBind. We talked a little bit about the Software Cloud Association. So tell us a little bit more about why, what are the benefits of being part of that? What might someone be able to gain? And you said it is free to join, right?
Yeah. So for now, we should charge more money.
Get in now while you can. That's the call to action.
I have a board meeting in 20 minutes, and one of our objectives is charge money. So the Cloud Software Association is all about making it easy. It's an instant professional network. As partnership people, our job is to know everybody and know what's going on with everybody. That's fundamentally what we do. And SaaS, like cloud software, is not designed for partnerships. So although software itself has always been a partnership play, the subscription has forced all the SaaS companies in direct marketing. So if you look at the industry, it's all predictable revenue and direct marketing. It's basically what everyone is pushing towards. So partner people have always been the smallest teams in the marketing stack, but we all have to know each other. So the CSA, we connect everybody and we create context for people to meet. It's your job to meet everybody, but sometimes it's hard to meet people because it's breaking the ice, and we break the ice. So that's important. And we also stabilize the network because people leave and move around, right? And so you're trading on your network, right, to your boss. It costs too much money to build up your Rolodex one relationship at a time. But the CSA is like the conglomeration of all that work of relationships, and so we kind of help each other out, and making sure that you can stay connected to whatever company you need to know, right? Like for instance, Adrian, I connected you to a bunch of people in WordPress land.
Yes, you did. And for that, I am forever grateful.
Exactly. Thank you. You're welcome. I mean, that's what we do. And I have no ulterior motive. People are like, what's your angle? So, you should have an angle. Well, I'm not wired that way. I've done a lot of online community stuff in the past. But it's necessary and I enjoy it. So, but then the other reason to do it is that as a partnership person, all this stuff we're talking about, the nitty gritty is really complicated because it's at the frontier. And so there's no other place to learn it. And you don't, no one starts off as a partnership person. You always start off something else, right? Either you're a developer like me, or a marketer, or a salesperson, which is the hardest, customer success, support, lawyers, public policy people. It's amazing where people come from. But you have to learn everything, and so the only people to learn that from are your peers, because there's no one at your company who's like the greatest CMO of all time, the greatest partnership person of all time. There's no such thing. because we're all like at the same kind of level, more or less. And so we got to learn from each other, right? And we give you access to people who've like had the opportunity, because they work at bigger companies, to try different, like bigger things out. And there's like, and I will say the one thing I am proud of, I hope that I've had this effect, is at the beginning of this association, partnership people getting into negotiations we're getting into a lot of more heated conflicts, because there's a lot of risk in any partnership deal, a lot of anxiety. And by increasing the communication and also setting this kind of friendly, beer to beer networking, hey, and just we're also, if you'll come to my event, you'll see, I try to bring the humanity back to like the business, like everyone is freaking out, because you're risking a lot of capital when you do a partnership, and not your capital, it's CEO's capital, right? Engineers, money, whatever, on a bet that another company will deliver results for you, which you can't control. And so it's like the stakes are high, and the behavior can get weird. And if you understand the humanity of what's going on with other people, this is part of knowing what's going on with other people, you can actually resolve those problems well and positively. I think the CSA has done a good job over the 10 years. I could just see the tone of the industry, our profession, has become so much more, happy and positive. It's not just obviously me, but like the whole industry is good. But I feel like we've created an environment where that has become a norm, and I hope I've contributed to that, because that actually makes the job much more enjoyable.
I can vouch for the credibility and the helpfulness of the community and the resources that they offer. If you're looking to go channel and you want some partnerships and you want to be able to learn a lot more about that, go check out the Cloud Software Association.
I also think you've touched on, when hopefully you agree to come back in the new year. Love you to come back.
Love to follow up on the progress of AppBind.
Is that I watched some of your previous interviews on YouTube, and you touched this about partners that you make assumptions, don't you? You don't know what's going on in their mind or what's going on in their life. So maybe cut back on what you think is, and start asking some questions when there's some behavior that doesn't make total sense to you. It's probably that because there's other factors. I think you said that in one of your interviews, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm 40 now. God help me. And every year I had a birthday in June.
I think you said your hardest negotiators were your own children.
That's right. That's right. And so you're going through my own life changes. You learn stuff. I look back at 10 years ago in my life, like what an idiot I was. And I assume 10 years from now, I'll be like, what an idiot I am now. But like the biggest thing that I had changed in my perspective is I was like, like any like 20-year-old who wants to make a mark in the world. I was like, yeah, I'm going to win this one. I am the toughest negotiator. I always enjoyed, I have a cowboy hat, which is amazing. And I have my kurta because I'm Indian. And I was like cowboy and Indian. I love that. I was like, I'm a cowboy. I'm going to like rock and roll. But that was stupid because it's great when you're a business person, but it doesn't achieve anything. Like all these people I've been on calls where people are like hopping up and down, yelling at me, screaming, all this stuff. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I am 3,000 kilometers away from you right now. Like what? I am not afraid of anything you could do to me. What is the point of this? Like you're having a tantrum. And I didn't understand it because I didn't understand tantrums, right? But now I have children. I understand. It's people, they're on that call because they want something to work. But they don't have the skills, ability, resources. There might be other things going on. There might be pressure, and they're taking it out on you. You can take it personally. You certainly can. I certainly will. If you cross the line, if you do something illegal, I will definitely take it personally. But if you do not, I will try to talk to you on a human level. It's like, listen, that was not great. What is up? And if it's not going to work out, it's fine. If they don't want to tell me, that's fine. But I think seeking understanding and understand, we're all in this. Like I've been on so many different sides of negotiation. I've screwed up a lot of times. I've seen other people screwed up. I've helped them. I've seen other people screwed up, and I screwed up helping them. It's just the way it goes. And it's like the thing is, so like at the conference, I invite people that I've been like to keynote that I have like been in huge fights with, because at least I try to remember they're human beings. It's just, by the way, we're in business software. Like my wife's a doctor. Like nothing we do matters in that sense. Like you can't take it too seriously. No one's gonna die, right? And so like what is the emotion about like an extra like $20,000 a year income? You know, we're all rich and aristocrats essentially. Like look at the wonderful lives that we lead. So what's the point of it all? Like the emotion. It should be fun. And so I try to remember now.
You got to remember. I'm in WordPress. I'm not in the rich palaces of the SaaS. I'm in the dirty section of WordPress. So I give you that. Right?
Why should use AppBind and make more money? That's
exactly. There we go. I bet it's throw it over to Adrian to wrap this up.
So thank you so much for joining us. I think we've all experienced a tantrum in our lives as agencies from some client or another. So remembering to not take it personally is definitely key in that, you know, it's all about anxiety, right? And so what you said earlier, it all comes back down to anxiety. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you come back and we can follow up on AppBind and their success as well as the successes of the Cloud Software Association next year. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see everybody next week. Jonathan will not be with us. It'll be me and the guest on our Loadsome. Hopefully, we'll make that work, and we'll see everybody next week. Thank you
so much for having me. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.